I never thought success would feel this fast. Here I was, 25 years old, sitting in my corner office at one of Boston's top marketing firms, staring at my latest bonus check. 6 months into my dream job, and I'm on top of the world. Mother's Day was coming up, and for the first time in my life, I could actually afford to do something spectacular for Mom. She deserved it. After Dad walked out when I was 12, she became my entire world. Single motherhood hadn't been easy, but she never let me see her struggle. She worked overtime, attended every school event, and somehow managed to keep our little family of 2 not just surviving, but thriving. That was before Tom came into the picture during my senior year of college. 5 years younger than Mom, with 2 sons aged 4 and 6. I still remember the day she told me she was getting married. Her eyes sparkled in a way I hadn't seen in years, and I tried to be happy for her. I really did. But everything changed after the wedding. Mom quit her job to become a full-time housewife, dedicating herself to raising Dylan and Connor. My visits home became increasingly awkward. I'd sit in the living room while she rushed around, helping the boys with homework or preparing their snacks. Our long heart-to-heart conversations dwindled into quick phone calls between her carpooling duties. The real gut punch came when I visited last Christmas. All my childhood photos had vanished from the walls, replaced by pictures of Tom and the boys. I found my memories stuffed in a box in the basement, gathering dust alongside old holiday decorations. "Mom, why did you take down all my photos?" I asked, holding up a picture from my high school graduation. She barely looked up from folding the boys' laundry. "Oh, honey, that's all in the past now. We need to make room for the new family photos." The new family. Those words stung more than I cared to admit. The final blow came when she couldn't attend my college graduation. I'd called her weeks in advance, excitement bubbling in my voice as I told her about being chosen as the student speaker. "Oh, Abigail," she'd said, her voice apologetic but distracted. "The boys have their school concert that day. They've been practicing for weeks. We can't miss it. You understand, right?" I did understand. I understood that I'd been relegated to the periphery of her life. Tom didn't help matters either. From day one, he treated me like an inconvenient reminder of Mom's past life. He'd look right through me during family dinners, directing all conversation to his sons. Eventually, I stopped trying to engage with him at all. So despite our past misunderstandings, I made up my mind. This Mother's Day gift needed to be unforgettable. Instead of just booking something myself, I decided to let Mom choose. I wanted this to be perfect, something that would remind her of how close we used to be before everything changed. I called her during my lunch break the next day, nervously tapping my pen against my desk calendar. "Hey, Mom, I want to do something special for Mother's Day this year. If you could go anywhere in the world, where would it be?" There was a pause on the other end of the line, then I heard genuine excitement in her voice, something I hadn't heard in years. "Really? Anywhere?" "Anywhere," I confirmed, smiling despite myself. The happiness in her voice brought back memories of how she used to sound when we planned our weekend adventures together. "Italy," she said without hesitation. I've always dreamed of going to Italy. Ever since I was a little girl, I've wanted to see Venice, Rome, Florence. Her voice took on a dreamy quality I hadn't heard since before she met Tom. "Then Italy it is," I said, already pulling up flight options on my computer. "Perfect choice, Mom. I couldn't think of anything better." She let out a small squeal of delight that reminded me of the old days. "Oh, Abigail, are you serious? I can't believe it. I want to go as soon as possible." Then her voice faltered. "But, what about the boys? Who will stay with them?" I had anticipated this question. Of course, the boys would be her first concern. They always were. I took a deep breath and kept my voice steady. "Tom can handle it, Mom. It's only 10 days. They're his kids, after all. They're old enough now that it shouldn't be a problem." 10 whole days? She sounded both thrilled and nervous. I could practically hear her mental gears turning, probably already thinking about meal prep and schedules for Tom and the boys. Yes, Mom. 10 days, just you and me. Like old times. I emphasized the last part, hoping she'd remember how good those times were. Like old times, she repeated softly. Then, with growing enthusiasm, yes, yes. I want to go right now. Her excitement was contagious. I spent the next few evenings meticulously planning every detail. First-class plane tickets. Mom had never flown first class before. I wanted her to feel special from the moment we stepped into the airport. I imagined her face when she'd see the spacious seats and champagne service. Then came the hotel search. I wanted something spectacular, a place that would make her feel like royalty. After hours of research, comparing amenities and reading reviews, I found the perfect hotel in Rome with a luxury suite overlooking the city. The view from our private balcony would face the historic center, offering a panorama of ancient domes and terracotta roofs. The suite had 2 bedrooms, a living area, and even a small kitchen where we could make coffee in the mornings. The price made me wince. It was more than my monthly rent, but I pushed ahead and booked it. Money didn't matter. What mattered was giving Mom the trip of her lifetime, showing her that she was worth every penny. I wanted to remind her that before she was anyone else's mother, she was mine. I arrived at Logan International Airport 2 hours early. My heart was light, filled with anticipation for the mother-daughter vacation I dreamed about. But that feeling evaporated the instant I spotted Mom near the check-in counter, along with Tom and the boys. They all had suitcases. I stopped dead in my tracks, my stomach dropping to my feet. For a moment, I thought I was hallucinating. But no, there they were, Tom helping Dylan adjust his backpack while Connor bounced excitedly around them, both boys now 8 and 10 years old. My mother was beaming, waving at me as if everything was perfectly normal, as if she hadn't just demolished all my carefully laid plans. What's going on? I managed to ask when I reached them, my voice barely steady. The gift bag with Mom's new travel accessories suddenly felt heavy in my hand. Why do you all have luggage? Oh, sweetie, Mom said, touching my arm with that patronizing smile she'd developed since remarrying. Don't worry about a thing. Tom's going to pay for their flights and hotel room. I just couldn't bear to leave them behind for so long. You know how boys that age need their mother. I stared at her, speechless. Tom stood there with his usual dismissive expression, checking his phone as if this conversation bored him. Connor was already whining about being hungry, while Dylan played some game on his tablet at full volume. But Mom, I finally found my voice, gripping the handle of my suitcase so tight my knuckles turned white. This was supposed to be our trip. Just us. That's what we planned. That's what we talked about. The boys have never been to Europe, she explained, as if that made everything okay. Her voice took on that defensive tone I'd grown to hate. And they won't get in your way at all, they'll be with Tom most of the time. Right, honey. She looked at Tom, who barely nodded without looking up from his phone. I wanted to scream, to cry, to turn around and go home. I could feel tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. But what choice did I have? The flights were non-refundable, and Mom was already helping the boys with their carry-ons, chattering excitedly about the trip ahead. I watched as she fussed over their passports and tickets, the way she used to fuss over mine. The flight to Rome was a blur. I sat alone in my first-class seat, the one next to me, meant for Mom, now occupied by a businessman while she sat in economy with her family. I ordered champagne and tried to convince myself this could still work out somehow. Maybe once we got to the hotel, things would get better. When we finally reached the hotel, I thought at least I'd have the suite I'd booked to myself. The suite I'd spent hours choosing, making sure it had the perfect view of Rome that Mom had always dreamed about. But Mom had other plans. Tom and I will take the suite, she announced casually as we stood in the marble lobby. She was already handing her bags to the bellhop. You can stay with the boys in the regular room Tom booked. I felt like I'd been slapped. The elegant lobby suddenly seemed to spin around me. What? Mom, I paid for that suite. For us. I booked it months ago. Don't be difficult, Abigail, she said, already heading toward the elevator with her suitcase. The boys need someone to watch them, and the suite has a better view for Tom and me. We want to make the most of our romantic getaway. The next few days were a nightmare. While Mom and Tom explored the cobblestone streets of Rome, visited the Vatican, and took day trips to Florence and Venice, I was trapped in a cramped hotel room with two hyperactive boys who had zero interest in Italian culture. I'm bored, Connor would whine for the 100th time, bouncing on his bed while I tried to read a guidebook. Can we go to the game room again? I hate walking, Dylan would complain whenever I suggested we go sightseeing. My feet hurt after 5 minutes. Why can't we just stay inside and play on our tablets? I really tried. One morning, I managed to get them as far as the Trevi fountain. I'd read about the tradition of throwing coins over your shoulder, thought maybe they'd enjoy it. But after exactly 3 minutes of coin throwing, they were done. It's just water and rocks, Connor declared. Can we go back now? My favorite show is on TV. Back in the room, sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. The boys treated bedtime as a suggestion rather than a rule. They'd jump from bed to bed, shouting at their video games, fighting over the TV remote, or arguing about who got to use the bathroom first. My attempts to enforce any kind of structure were met with eye rolls and complaints. You're not our mom, Dylan would say whenever I tried to set boundaries. We don't have to listen to you. One night, around 2 a.m., as I lay awake listening to the boys giggling over some YouTube video, I got a text from Mom. It was a photo of her and Tom having dinner at a rooftop restaurant in Florence, the Duomo lit up behind them. Having the most romantic time. Thanks for watching the boys. I stared at that photo for a long time, taking in their happy faces, the wine glasses, the stunning view from my suite's balcony. Meanwhile, I was lying on a rollaway bed in a room that smelled like boys' sweaty socks, with the sounds of some gaming YouTuber blaring from Dylan's tablet. Can you guys please go to sleep? I pleaded, not for the first time that night. It's really late. Mom lets us stay up late on vacation, Connor informed me, not even looking away from the screen. I pulled my pillow over my head and tried not to cry. This was supposed to be my dream trip to Italy. Instead, I'd somehow become an unpaid babysitter in a foreign country, while my mother lived it up in the suite I'd paid for, with the man who'd helped her forget she had a daughter. I was trying to convince the boys to at least change out of their pajamas when there was a knock at the door. It was Marco, the hotel's front desk manager, looking apologetic but firm. Miss Thompson, I need to discuss the matter of payment for this room, he said, consulting his tablet. The payment is now overdue. I blinked at him in confusion. There must be some mistake. My stepfather, Tom Barrett, is supposed to be paying for this room. He booked it. Marco shook his head, scrolling through his records. The room was indeed booked by Mr. Barrett, but it was registered under your name with deferred payment. I've just spoken with Mr. Barrett, and he confirmed that you will be handling the payment. The total for the 5 nights so far comes to... He named a figure that made my stomach lurch. I stormed up to the suite I should have been staying in, leaving the boys watching cartoons. My hands were shaking as I knocked on the door. Tom answered, looking irritated at the interruption. What is it now, Abigail? He asked, not bothering to open the door fully. We need to talk about the room payment, I said, pushing past him into the suite. The view of Rome from the balcony, the view I'd picked out specifically for Mom, caught my eye for a moment before I turned back to face them. Mom was sitting on the couch, already looking guilty. Mom, did you know about this? Did you know Tom put the room in my name? Well, sweetie, she started, not meeting my eyes. Tom cut her off. Look, you're making such a big deal about this Mother's Day gift. What's another room payment? You can afford it with your fancy new job. That's not the point. I could hear my voice rising but couldn't control it. You can't just... Listen, Tom interrupted again, his voice hard. Your mother and I are the core family now. Me and the boys, we're what matters most to her. If you want to do something nice for your mother, you need to include all of us. That's just how it is. Mom sat there silently, examining her manicure. You need to stop being so selfish and greedy, Tom continued. The room charge isn't even that much. Just pay it and stop making a scene. And while you're at it, leave us alone for the rest of the vacation. Your job is to watch the boys, not bother us every 5 minutes. The worst part wasn't Tom's arrogance or even the money. It was Mom's silence. She sat there, letting him speak to me this way, letting him dictate how her daughter should be treated. The woman who had once been my fierce protector, who had worked 2 jobs to give me everything I needed, now couldn't even look me in the eye. Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the entitled look on Tom's face, or maybe it was the way Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. All the hurt and frustration of the past few days, no, the past few years, came pouring out. This is absolutely ridiculous, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. You've completely hijacked my gift to Mom. You've taken over the suite I paid for, stuck me with babysitting duties, and now you're trying to stick me with your hotel bill? This isn't just rude, it's arrogant. Abigail. Mom finally looked up, her face flushed. How dare you speak to us this way? After everything we've done for you? I laughed, and it wasn't a happy sound. Everything you've done for me? What exactly have you done for me lately, Mom? Ever since you married Tom, I've been pushed aside, forgotten, replaced. And now this vacation, the one thing I tried to do to reconnect with you, you've turned it into yet another way to show me I don't matter. You're being incredibly selfish, Mom snapped. This is supposed to be about making me happy. Selfish? I felt tears burning in my eyes, but refused to let them fall. I saved for months to give you this trip. I planned everything perfectly. I wanted to spend time with my mother. But you're so wrapped up in your new family that you can't even see what you're doing. Tom stepped forward, towering over me. You need to watch your tone, young lady. No, I don't, I said, stepping back. I'm done. I'm done watching your kids. I'm done being pushed aside. I'm done pretending this is okay. I turned and walked out of the suite, ignoring Mom's calls behind me. Back in my room, I threw my belongings into my suitcase while the boys watched cartoons, oblivious to what was happening. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear for the first time in days. 20 minutes later, I was checking into a boutique hotel on the other side of Rome. My new room was smaller than the suite I'd originally booked, but it was mine. Just mine. The moment I closed the door behind me, my phone started buzzing with texts from Mom. How could you do this to me? You're ruining everything. You need to come back and watch the boys. You still have to pay for that room. The messages kept coming, growing increasingly demanding and guilt-inducing. Mom called 3 times in a row, leaving voicemails that alternated between angry and tearful. Tom's messages were more direct, mostly about the room payment and what an ungrateful daughter I was. I blocked both their numbers. That evening, I sat at a tiny restaurant in Trastevere, eating the best pasta I'd ever tasted and sipping local wine. The waiter taught me how to properly twirl spaghetti, and the elderly couple at the next table invited me to share their tiramisu. For the first time since arriving in Italy, I felt at peace. Over the next few days, I did everything I'd originally planned. I toured the Vatican museums, tossed coins in the Trevi fountain, and walked for hours through ancient ruins. I took a cooking class and learned to make real Italian pizza. I sat on the Spanish steps and watched the sunset, not having to worry about restless children or disapproving stepfathers. The return to normal life after Italy was surprisingly peaceful. I threw myself back into work, decorated my apartment with photos from my solo adventures in Rome, and started taking Italian cooking classes. For the first time in years, I felt like myself again. Then, one Sunday morning over coffee, my phone started buzzing with notifications. My cousin Rachel had texted, "Have you seen your mom's Facebook post? You should probably check it." I hadn't looked at Mom's social media since blocking her number in Italy. With a growing sense of dread, I opened Facebook and found the post at the top of my feed. It was long, with multiple crying emojis. I need to share the most heartbreaking Mother's Day experience any mother could have. My own daughter, Abigail, who I raised alone and sacrificed everything for, has shown her true colors. She promised to take our whole family on a dream vacation to Italy, something Tom and I have wanted for years. But when we got there, she refused to help with her brothers and abandoned us all in a foreign country. She wouldn't pay for our room like she promised, leaving us stranded with extra expenses. She ruined our entire family vacation with her selfish behavior. The boys were devastated when she disappeared without even saying goodbye. What kind of person abandons young children and their mother in a strange country? And to think this was supposed to be a Mother's Day gift. I guess this shows what my daughter really thinks of me and her new family. My heart is absolutely shattered. I don't know where I went wrong as a mother. The comments section was already filling up with relatives and family friends. I can't believe Abigail would do this to you. What a terrible daughter. Those poor boys must have been so confused and hurt. You deserve better than this treatment. I always knew she was jealous of your new family, but this is just cruel. Aunt Susan, who hadn't spoken to me in years, wrote a particularly long comment about how she'd always known I was troubled and selfish. Uncle Mike, who'd forgotten my last 3 birthdays, suddenly had strong opinions about my character and family loyalty. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the comments. Every single relative seemed to have an opinion about what a terrible daughter I was. Even my mother's hairdresser had chimed in with her disappointment in my behavior. The post had been carefully crafted to paint me as the villain, conveniently leaving out the fact that I'd paid for the original trip for just Mom and me, or that they'd hijacked my suite, or that they'd tried to stick me with their hotel bill after forcing me to be their unpaid babysitter. I stared at Mom's post for a long time, my hands hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to just ignore it, to rise above the drama. But seeing all those people condemning me based on lies, I couldn't let it stand. The truth needed to come out. With hands that shook only slightly, I clicked a reply and started writing. Since Mom has chosen to make this public, I feel I need to share the complete story. Let me provide some evidence to show exactly what happened. I attached the first-class plane ticket receipts, 2 tickets, not 5, clearly purchased months in advance. Then came the hotel confirmation for the luxury suite, also booked and paid for months ago. The total made several relatives' eyes pop, judging by their shocked face emoji reactions. But the real impact came from the text messages. I posted screenshots of our conversations leading up to the trip. Mom, just you and me in Italy? I can't wait, like old times. Me, yes, exactly. 10 days, just us. Mom, perfect. Tom can manage with the boys. Then the messages from Italy. Mom, the suite is lovely. Tom and I are so comfortable here. Me, Mom, that suite was meant for us. Mom, don't be difficult. You need to watch the boys. Mom, you need to pay for the other room too. Tom says it's not much for someone with your salary. The comments section exploded with new reactions. Aunt Susan's tune changed dramatically. Oh my goodness, I had no idea. That's absolutely terrible treatment. Uncle Mike wrote, this isn't right. You can't ambush someone like that and then play victim. Even Mom's hairdresser chimed in again, I'm deleting my previous comment. This is not okay. My cousin Rachel posted a lengthy comment about how she'd experienced similar treatment when her mom remarried, and how painful it was to be pushed aside for a new family. Others shared similar stories. The tide of public opinion shifted completely. People who'd been condemning me hours earlier were now expressing shock at my mother's behavior. Several commented on how manipulative it was to twist the story and play victim on social media. Mom deleted her original post within hours, but the damage was done. The truth was out there now, and there was no taking it back. That evening, I got a text from Mom, we need to talk about this. You're making me look terrible. I blocked that number too. It's been 6 months since Italy. I haven't spoken to Mom or Tom since then, and honestly, I'm at peace with that decision. The whole experience helped me see clearly what I'd been trying to deny for years. In Mom's new life, I was an afterthought, an inconvenience to be managed rather than a daughter to be loved. Some relatives have tried to mediate, suggesting I should forgive and forget, for the sake of family. But I've learned that real family doesn't treat you like a convenience. Real family doesn't try to manipulate and gaslight you. Real family doesn't push you to the sidelines. I've stopped waiting for mom to become the mother I remember. Instead, I'm focusing on building my own life, surrounding myself with people who value and respect me. Sometimes the happiest ending isn't fixing a broken relationship, it's accepting that it's broken and moving forward anyway.